The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't
The
care.
BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Back with part 2 of the BS Report. Our old friend Dave Dameshek is here. And another one of our old friends, Kevin Hench, on the phone. We're talking, who else? LeBron James. All right, as a Celtics fan, here's what I'm holding on to. Hench, tell me if you agree.
All right.
Number one, these are things we need for Miami not to be a dynasty. Number one, we need the LeBron Wade thing to be a little weird. To be a little, we need a lot of that. You want to, or do you think you can take the guy? Well, I kind of felt like I could. All right, will you take this one? I'll get the next one.
LeBron is such an unselfish player. I just don't see that happening, but go on.
Well, so LeBron would have to take a major back seat.
But it's not a back seat to throw an alley-oop to a guy.
to get guys laughs?
Yeah.
All right, so you shot that one down.
Yeah, all right, next. Jermaine O'Neal has to average a double-double.
Dwight Howard, let's say they play Orlando in a series. Dwight Howard, we're putting a lot of stock in Dwight Howard, a guy that I don't trust at all. But Chris Bosh can not guard Dwight Howard. Udonis Haslem could not guard Dwight Howard. What if Dwight Howard just turned into Shaq circa 2000 against them?
I just don't think, having watched the Celtics take them apart, that you can win with Dwight Howard. Like, even in the series we were talking about from a couple of years ago, I was joking, but it really was Hedo Turkoglu with the ball in crunch time that the Cavs didn't have an answer for.
Yeah.
Howard puts up those big numbers, but I feel like you can stop Howard when you want to.
Right.
Like, you want him to shoot free throws, because terrible free throw shooter, and you want him to shoot jump hooks. Like, you just basically want to box him out. I don't think there's a Dwight Howard formula for beating the Cavs.
All right, so that argument's out then.
The cheats.
Well, I think Orlando, the thing that they are is, and I like them better, I like their version 2 years ago more than I did this past season.
Yeah, they screwed up.
Even though Vince Carter it did give him an extra penetrator, but yeah, in crunch time, he did his usual thing. But what they can do is against any team in the East is what they just get the ball into the blocks to Dwight Howard, and then he kicks it back out, and then it just becomes purely about whether or not they're knocking it down. If Rashard Lewis and company are drilling it from the perimeter, but now Redick's gone. But if that's the way they're going to play it, it's just simply about down low and then back out to the perimeter.
But you left out rebounds, and that's I think going to be the biggest issue with this Miami team.
I don't think that's going to be a big issue because I think LeBron, we never mentioned Bosh even, who's also an excellent rebounder, and LeBron and Wade are great rebounders. Like, they're great rebounders. When that ball goes up, so much of it, like Pippen used to do this all the time, is like getting those little deflections, those little tips to a teammate.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that they're so long. And to get back to Shaq's point, part of kicking the ball out to get a guy an open look depends on who's coming to close you out. So if Wade and LeBron are going down to the post to double, and then Dwight Howard does not kick the ball out particularly well. He's not a great passer. So he kicks the ball out, and then you've got Wade or LeBron flying at you. It's not a comfortable way to shoot. It's not like having Shaq running at you where I shoot about 75%.
How dare you, sir?
Here's the problem.
The
Mike Miller signing really screwed up my whole three-man team thing. Because he's kind of perfect for this group. It sucks. I hate admitting it.
And by the way, I know you scoffed at it when I said Chalmers is comparable to Rondo.
Well, that was one of the dumbest things
it
you've
was
ever
not
said
because you're just cherry picking the statement to say that I'm comparing Chalmers to Rondo currently.
Really stupid.
No, going into the Celtics title year, Rondo was sort of an unknown. He was going to have to step up and obviously play an important role if they were going to go deep with the big three. It's sort of where Chalmers is now. couple years into the league, but the difference is he can actually shoot the ball. He is a perimeter shooter, and even before Mike Miller, I thought that's a decent little piece. I don't think Mario Chalmers 2 years from now we're gonna be talking about him the way we do Rondo now. The point is, he's a fine piece. He can shoot the ball. That's all he's gonna have to do is be a static perimeter player for them at the offensive end.
I guess
how many seconds?
If there is a silver lining about the Miami cheats, is that with Mario Chalmers playing 20 playoff games next spring into the summer, that would be that many more times for John Calipari to think about fouling with a 3-point lead in an NCAA championship game. Every time they're like, hey, Chalmers for 3.
That's how we could make them less likable. Hire John Calipari to be the Heat's coach.
Oh, no, Coach Spo, my dear friend Coach Spo, is going to be coaching the team. Coach Spo, oh, God, I hate those guys.
Poor Coach Spo. Hench, how many seconds do I get to refute the Rondo Chalmers thing? You decide.
Well, ironically, if Rondo could shoot like Chalmers, he might be in the pantheon of all-time NBA players.
Well, the difference is Rondo was untouchable that summer, which is what people forgot. Like Seattle wanted him in the Ray Allen deal. And then Minnesota, he became the KG deal fell through until Minnesota backed off on getting Rondo. Miami would trade Chalmers for anything. That's the difference.
But the pedigree is you can agree at least that it's approximate, right? Same stats their first couple of years in the league.
He lost his job to Carlos Arroyo last year.
All right. Well, listen.
That's trouble.
It's imperfect. I'm just saying that it is not. It's not like he doesn't. All he has to do on that team again is be a fine spot up shooter, which I think he will be.
My hope is that they have put together the greatest small ball team of all time. They put together the ideal Don Nelson team. You have Chris Bosh at center, Haslam power forward, as Hench pointed out, Wade and James, very long, active, all that stuff, and then Mike Miller. And they could play LeBron at point guard, and that could be their crunch time 5. And you'd have basically everybody. Wade would be the shortest guy at 6'5". Then you'd have 6'8", 6'8", 6'8", 6'11".
Well,
and
one of my favorite college
basketball devastating
of all time was that Illinois team with Nick Anderson and Kenny Battle and Steve Bardo and Kendall Gill, and that's how they played. No one was little, but no one was big. It's just everyone was long and active. And, I do feel like that, and Simmons, you've pointed this out repeatedly through the years, like Celtics go small, they go on a big run. I do feel like that the lumbering, dump it into the low post, like we may have moved out of that Shaq generation.
Well, and really, the Lakers are the only team that can go big where you could say, I can't play a small ball lineup against this team.
Because they're so active. Their big guys are so active.
So, here's what I'm holding on to.
Are you talking about the rightful owner, deservedly NBA Finals MVP, Pau Gasol?
Yes, I am. And
what a crime. What a crime.
But here's what I'm hoping is that they've put together the greatest Don Nelson, Mike D'Antoni team of all time. And those guys have never won a title. So maybe this will be the greatest offensive small ball team we've ever seen.
Interesting.
But when push comes to shove in the finals, when it comes down to who, points in the paint, rebounds, and second chances and all that stuff, and they just won't have the mustard. That's the only thing I'm holding on to at this point.
But
Dameshek's looking at me in
piece of driftwood that you're holding on to, if the other end of it is attached to the Lakers winning another championship,
that's terrible.
It's what I always say.
I guess we just go full Kevin Durant now. Like, I guess I don't know who can keep the Lakers from winning the West, who can keep the Heat from winning the East.
Well, we need Kobe to start getting old.
Yeah, but talk about driftwood, by the way. The idea.
O'Neal.
I mean, you've already in the last week. It's been. What's that?
Jermaine O'Neal. If you're going to talk about driftwood.
No, I mean, Simmons, you keep hammering this point like, well, they're not going to be able to sign. Who's going to go to that team? Well, we've already seen Udonis re-sign, which is a fine piece for them to retain, and Mike Miller. So clearly there are going to be guys. You think that's where it stops? I mean, keep in mind that, and you've made the point, the Celtics' big three to win that crown, they needed some complementary pieces to be added over the course of the season. Think of those names that were those difference makers. You think they don't? The Heat certainly have added them. Posey equals Mike Miller, right? I mean,
right. Well,
that's going to happen between now and the start of the playoffs.
The problem is that next year is going to be a lockout, and the 07-08 Celtics had the advantage of people could come there for a year and showcase their wares and then turn that into a much bigger contract the next year. This year, everybody's grabbing money because there's going to be a lockout next year and everybody wants their contract. So
ask Antoine Walker how an extra $30 million would do these days.
That's the thing. And everybody's, now that these bankrupt guys have come out, people are, I got to get mine now. And that's why I don't think going into the season they're going to be able to get those guys, but they're going to be able to get a buyout guy or two in February, because that's how we got P.J. Brown.
But how far off are they right now from that? They need to add one or two more pieces, some length, like you say, up front.
They have enough. I mean, they have 6 now. They have 6 guys that they can go to war with. And actually, Hench, did you say they had Varnado?
No.
Remember that guy Varnado, the shot blocker in college? I forget what team he was on. He lit it up for somebody.
Well, they don't need. I mean,
they need to get lucky with somebody like that.
How many games would LeBron, Bosh, and Wade win with the 9 worst players in the NBA filling out the roster?
I said 50, and then I've been confronted with a lot of sabermetric analysis that says that estimate was way too low.
Way too low. Yeah, that's what I think too. It's not. I mean, the nature of the sport is such that you don't need 5 guys to be able to do most things. Like those 3 guys, they're gonna get their points.
LeBron's front line these past few years has been filled out by Varejao. I mean, you don't think
Varejao's good though?
He's fine, but let's see how good he is now. That Cleveland team, the idea, and I know Dan Gilbert's just trying to pump up the fan base and everything, but the notion, and I've heard objective analysts talking about this. I don't know, without LeBron, that team might be like 6th or 7th seed at best. What? They have no chance of going to the playoffs.
Lose 60 games.
They're going to be putrid. They are going to be so. I think what we'll see how good LeBron is. What's that?
No Ewing theory for them?
no Ewing theory. We'll see how great LeBron was with his absence. That team is going to be so lousy. I can't believe anybody thinks they might. I don't even think they're going to be in the top half of the playoffs. What? They're not going to be in the playoffs.
They're going to be, they're going to be in the lottery. The Ewing theory for this Cavs team is that Patrick Ewing could start for them right now.
By the way, Hench, I said that the other day. Let's just do away with, that's what it's coming down to. And I guess kudos, let the pioneers of the NBA be your Celtics big 3. They were the ones that, KG and Ray Allen are the ones who joined Paul Pierce for the first ever big 3, really. So let's just do away with it. Let's go 3-on-3 at the All-Star game. Let's forget that hooey and applesauce where the WNBA girls come out and shoot with I don't even know what that event is. Or let's just go 3-on-3. Now that would be fascinating.
What did you like for a nickname for these 3 guys? Because do we really have to say big 3 for every 3 guys that play together?
Yeah, you're right. I don't like Miami Thrice though, because I don't know.
That was terrible.
That's no good, and I'm confused by which one's Don Johnson. We know that Bosh is the Philip Michael Thomas of the trio.
No, Bosh is Zito or Swiatek.
And
or possibly both at the same time.
Well, Chalmers, has to get one of those.
I like Hench. Did you hear about the 3 DeBigos?
Oh, God.
3 DB / egos. I like that one.
Well, the thing about the Celtics big 3 is, I don't really have a problem with guys entering their twilight wanting a ring. Yeah, that's okay. But, the doing it in your prime when you still should want to be the man.
Yeah.
It's just really, it's lame. He's never, he forever will be the guy who needed the big brother.
That's so right, Hench. And, Le Batard said, you can say a lot of things about what LeBron did, but one thing you can't say is that it was cowardly. There was nothing cowardly. Yeah, it is, because cowardly is synonymous with afraid, and he was afraid that he couldn't ever get his ring unless he joined forces with these guys. It's terribly lame, and it's almost.
Wait, hold on though. So you're not buying the whole thing? This would have been like his buddies just wanted to all play together, and he just saw it as I get to play with my buddies and live.
He ran home to get his big brother to fight the Celtics, who knocked him out of the playoffs. He surrendered. He's like, I can't do it. I don't know.
I'm more on that side of the argument, but I do see his side of, especially if some weird things, which we can't talk about in this podcast, but if there was any sort of real reasons why things fell apart in Cleveland, some team dissension.
Sure, that's right.
you know where I'm going with that.
Yes.
And he needed to leave, and he felt like these guys are my boys. I want to play with my boys and live in South Beach.
I want to go. I want to go to Miami. I want to share the ball with Dwayne Wade. I want to share his penicillin. I want him really. I mean, this is my guy. That's terrific. Right. Yeah.
Our best case for this falling apart is going to be ego. The more I'm thinking about it, because the Mike Miller thing really did change the equation.
I think what hurts it, what is exactly, you say triple-double, can LeBron do something spectacular like that in the regular season? Spoelstra / Riley are going to have to, somebody's going to have to say, is going to have to be conservative with that, is going to have some discipline and sit those guys down. I think that instead of chasing 70 wins, if they get on a roll coming out of the gate and they could do something historic like that, whether it's a triple-double or 70 wins or something like that, I think they should be underwhelming in the regular season and say.
No, they're going to be so excited to play together, though. And also, I think everybody they play is going to be totally fired up to play them.
But wait, how about this, guy? This is the dream scenario. Okay, this would be the absolute greatest thing. They're winning a ton of games. They're going to win the top seed in the East. In March, LeBron, has that Magic Johnson injury, the Michael Jordan injury that costs him a season, and the Heat win the championship anyway.
Oh.
That would be the greatest. So then when LeBron comes back fully healthy, like, hey guys, I'm back. Oh, right. Yeah, hey, cool. All right, get in here, in the huddle. We want a title without you,
I was hoping, I thought like in February if they traded Bosh for 3 guys, I thought that would be fun. Bosh like, hey, I'm part of the Big 3. Oh, no, we traded you to Oklahoma City. Sorry, Chris Bosh. He's, by the way, can we all agree he's the all-time big winner in this whole thing?
Oh, my goodness.
Chris Bosh.
I love the fact that during that horror show when they were dancing and doing whatever they did, that they had to they had to go to equal time to Chris Bosh.
Oh, that was the best. What
did they call? Oh, the Bosh pit.
The Bosh pit. So first he said, "This is Dwayne Wade's house."
None of it works. The Bosh pit, Miami thrice. It's all a little off.
That's so right. It feels phony. And by the way, you say want to play with their friends. I really am I being a little too cynical, simplistic to say that it was Dwayne Wade saying to those guys, like, there are no better women in the world. I know you can have any women you want in Cleveland and Toronto, wherever.
These guys know that. They knew that already.
I know, but maybe it really came down to, listen, we will be the kings. We will, the place, our homes will overflow.
We'll make it the new LA. Yeah.
I mean, couldn't it have just come down to that for those guys? Like, I get your thing about the chums. Like, hey, what'd be more fun than hanging out with
boys? We're going to be boys, and we'll play poker on the plane.
There's a terrific Italian restaurant down here. I don't think these guys have any doubts about what's in every city.
Yeah. No, they definitely don't.
Having worked extensively with John Sally these many months, I'm pretty hip to how it works.
Well, and then the other funny thing, and this was so telling, I thought, that he said he was taking his talents to South Beach. If you've ever been to Miami, the arena is actually in downtown Miami. It's not in South Beach.
Well, when Super Bowl was in Miami, I heard a local Miami radio announcer go, good, the rest of the world is learning that Miami, that the non-South Beach part of Miami is a toilet bowl.
Right.
And boy, is that true.
Well,
and by the way, South Beach, I got sick of South Beach in 4 days.
Oh.
It's cheese ball. No, but listen, it's cheese ball. What I say this about Vegas all the time.
Yeah.
I think the national perception of Los Angeles, people would say to us, the 3 of us living here, we're kind of like the big 3. But that's right. All right, but anyway, I don't care if I'm the Bosh in that equation, so be it. But listen, people say about L.A., you guys are throwing stones in your fancy glass houses in L.A. to badmouth Miami. But I feel like people think L.A. is plastic and cheese ball. No, Vegas is that, not L.A. L.A. has some soul. And to compare L.A. and Miami as sports towns, I mean, for what it's worth, the Dodgers are real they're a sports landmark. Dodger Stadium is a wonderful place. They've been around for a long time. The Lakers have been here for a long time.
The Lakers have had like 8 of the top 16 players ever. Yeah.
I know UCLA is a cheating bunch now all of a sudden, but UCLA and USC, that rivalry. I mean, all of it's new in Miami. The Heat are new down there.
Well,
the Marlins are new.
You make a good point. And Matt, our dear friend Matt Money Smith, tweeted that he, after the decision and that awful series of events, he said he listened to a few innings of Vin Scully to clean himself of the filth of LeBron and company. And it's true, like that, you can't get more legit than Vin Scully and the Dodgers.
And then same thing, Kevin Durant was the other big winner. And, the Twitter thing, I think on any other week, people would have been like, oh, that's cool, he resigned. But it was so glaring, the difference between Durant just handling it. And also, a little known thing with the Durant that I haven't seen a lot of people point out, he doesn't have an opt-out in that contract. He did 5 full years, can't get out at any point in the 5 years because he wanted the team to be able to recruit potential free agents and say, Kevin Durant's here for 5 years. And this was a little hidden thing with LeBron and how he kind of screwed the Cavs. When he did that 3-year opt-out in 2007, free agents were afraid to sign there because they didn't know if he was going to be there in 2010. So unwittingly, he kind of killed them.
They were also afraid to sign there because Cleveland is located in Cleveland.
Yeah, I forgot that part.
It's a bummer. But if you've ever
how can you pile on Cleveland, Hench?
If you've ever seen the chicks in Oklahoma City, you know why Durant sticking around.
Well, that's another funny thing that, LeBron's taken such heat for the competitive thing and all that, but Bosh could have gone to Oklahoma City and been a part of, the best chemistry team in the league. He could have been the signature down low guy, created this partnership with Durant. And if anything, I think that would have made him a higher profile guy than.
Back to the thing, the devil's advocate thing to try and put a happy spin on this big three. And because they took less money to try and form something.
Well,
we'll see how it plays out.
How much less money was it, though?
All right, well, but
they
listen,
took 8%
I know, but
less, and there's no state tax in Florida,
I know,
which
but
cuts off some.
I know
of it.
we can play that game of like, well, somebody could have signed for $50 million, and instead they, but they chased the extra $6 million, so they could go.
And did Bosh really take less money? By the way, were other teams lining up to pay him $110 million that I know of?
Well, based on the contracts that we've seen some other guys sign, I don't think it's
Simmons, if you don't know, nobody does, because nobody understands the mid-level exemption and the salary cap.
6 years, $110 million for Chris Bosh, who can't guard anybody.
But isn't it great? I mean, listen, you guys, Tom Brady took less money so that they could bring in some players to surround him.
And they didn't.
Well, yeah.
Yes, Hitch knows.
And I'll tell you, I have to say, I hailed very quietly over the last 6 months, 2 years, what the Pittsburgh Penguins have done. Sidney Crosby takes less money, they all collectively, so that they can stay together as a group. In a way, that's sort of what these three guys have done.
You can pay in beer. They don't know how to use currency. And the other thing I'd say about Tom Brady is his wife makes $50 million a year. If ever there was a guy who could afford to take less money.
Well, he and that sheep that took the clothing ad. What was he holding there? A goat or a sheep?
Don't lash out at Tom Brady.
He makes a lot of money for that.
This podcast is not about Tom Brady. All right, Hench, did the Miami Heat win the 2011 title or not?
Yes.
Yes, hands down, you're convinced.
I just feel like if the barricade between them and the title is the Lakers, and the Lakers could barely beat a geriatric Celtics team shooting 32% in Game 7, they are not going to be able to handle the youth and vitality of the Miami Cheats in the finals. Heat in 6.
I bet Levitard on his show $1,000 to charity that they wouldn't win this year. Then that Mike Miller signing happened, and now I'm like,
look, the East. They're not.
How'd that LeBron to Chicago bet turn out for you?
Terribly.
Orlando's is the best chance of knocking them off in the East. That won't happen. They'll get to the finals. If it is the Lakers, let's say it is the Lakers, I don't think that's a guarantee. But if it is, another year, another year older for Kobe. Let's see what happens with Raja Bell. Now, this thing of Ron Artest, you and I think Simmons were among the few who denounced that move, that they would have been back. Ultimately, Artest redeemed himself.
Oh, I'd like to go the other way on that. I think they win earlier with Trevor Ariza.
Of course.
How about that argument?
I've said forever that Ariza was a bad move. Now, everybody scoffs at the idea that you would say that, because obviously Artest in the last moments, did pull things out.
It was funny though, the two quote unquote, I don't want to say Artest is crazy, Odom is flighty, and then Fisher. Those were the three guys who weren't scared in that game.
It's true.
Gasol at the end, but Gasol was terrible in the first half.
But I think that Kupchak and company sort of get lucky because they couldn't have anticipated the Celtics being there. I'm sure they were looking at LeBron or something like that. They weren't thinking
the
it would be the
Celtics got
Celtics.
lucky too. They shouldn't have been there.
The Lakers with Artest, I assume my hypothesis is that Kupchak goes and gets Artest to check Carmelo Anthony and someone like that because Artest is
LeBron and Pierce
at this point, yeah. And so he winds up the perfect matchup on Pierce, but he couldn't handle a quicker guy out there. But that being said, Artest is a year older now. I just don't buy buying him as a question mark every year now. That now it's gone on long enough now that you cannot depend on Andrew Bynum being healthy.
Phil Jackson's last year is an interesting ploy. Him saying that before the season. Little Red Arbackian. Yeah, that's what Arbach did in '65. Hench.
Do you think anybody? Do you think in the 21st century athletes care about that sort of thing like they did back then? They don't care about.
No, but it's whatever. Hench, who has the best chance? Beat them.
To beat them?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I guess the Lakers in the finals. I really can't see, the Celtics doing it. I just feel like everything fell right for the Celtics and. That thing we can't talk about on the podcast, who knows how heavily that weighed on LeBron, but it was bizarre watching some of those sequences where he was barely participating.
And didn't seem interested in whether they won or lost.
Did not seem interested when they won or lost. And when they got booed off the court in Game 5, it was speculated, but now in retrospect, it was done, right? When he was like, a switch got flipped in his head.
Yeah, I would agree.
I agree with that. Exactly what Hench just said. LeBron knew he was leaving, and we all knew in those moments. Think about back when you were watching those final moments.
Rip the jersey off.
You knew LeBron was done in Cleveland. The people in the arena knew that was the last time that they were going to see him playing with Cleveland. All he had to do in the press conference then and there was say, listen, I think it's time for me to move on, or do that 2 weeks later, or a month later, or the morning he woke up with a decision and he knew he wasn't going to sign with Cleveland. That's the crime, the biggest crime. All he had to do was say, I'm not going back to Cleveland. Now I'm going to announce where I am going. Instead of doing this thing, this announcement thing, to really, as you say, twist the knife into the fan.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because had he made that announcement right, after being booed off the court in Game 5, he could have said, I've never done anything but lay it on the line for this team, and to hear those boos showering down on us. Really changed the way I felt about the city. It could have put it on them in a way.
Well, the problem, though, is that it seems like he knew he was leaving, and it seems like this was in the bag either in late May or mid-June or whenever these three guys decided Miami's got the cap space, let's go there. And he left Cleveland.
Are you saying that you shouldn't try to tell a lie on national television if you're a terrible actor?
Well, forget even that part. Cleveland got screwed. All these other guys got signed. They could have had this trade exception.
That's exactly right.
And he basically, not only did he stab them in the back in the show, but he also prevented them from replacing him.
Stabbed him in the chest.
And now they're looking at guys like Al Jefferson and Andre Kirilenko and people that aren't going to really make a difference. But I thought that was kind of.
Right. That it would be a decent. It wouldn't be great, but it would be a decent consolation prize had LeBron done what you just said 6 weeks or so ago, and now Amari Stoudemire was there. Something like that would be at least palatable.
Well,
now, how can you
trade?
If you're a Cleveland guy, if you're a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, how can you ever summon the stomach to start rooting for this team again? The only thing that makes it worthwhile is what Dan Gilbert did, and I love him putting a pox. I know people have turned it the other way and said, now if you're a free agent, why would you ever go and play for that team because he can be nasty? I love it. For my money, I thought that was an awesome move by Dan Gilbert to put a curse, a pox on those Miami hates.
Absolutely, and to bring it full circle, as we lay the boss to rest, that would have been mild for Steinbrenner, and the fact that David Stern lays down the law on Dan Gilbert and takes him to the woodshed for $100,000, do you think Bud Selig would have the cojones for one of Steinbrenner's loose cannon press conferences to say, hey, man, that's out of line?
There's no way, but I'll tell you one thing, though. Gilbert got raked through the coals, and I didn't agree with what he did, and I don't think you should you should probably sleep on that one for a night before you release that letter. But
how many glasses of scotch?
Well, here's the thing.
Before you
I
type
think
the email.
When the
let's settle down.
Hold on,
Jackson,
wait,
is what I want to say.
All right.
That's all.
When it all comes out of all the stuff they did for this guy over the last few years and the depths of how they enabled him and how the people in his entourage, they flew him on the charters, they got him seats. Do you know that Dan Gilbert, so the Celtics and Boston, the owners, this is routine for the NBA, the owners will swap their courtside seats. So, when you come to my playoff game, you can, you take these two seats. Then when I come in Boston, I'll sit in so when Cleveland played in Boston, Dan Gilbert would give his courtside seats to Maverick and somebody else. Like, that's the depths of how he enabled these guys, put them on the charters, put people on the payroll, allowed, and this is why Chicago didn't want any part of LeBron, because they didn't want to do all the enabling stuff. Pat Riley doesn't care. But I think when all this stuff comes out, people are going to feel a little bit different about not understanding why Dan Gilbert was that upset. Because,
Well, Shaq and I are down with him already. We'll only feel that he was that much more vindicated when we hear all these reports of how much he did for these guys. Ugh.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, Dan Gilbert has positioned himself. I don't think it's going to happen, but, the one thing that he went too far with for his sake was we're going to win a title before he will. That was a mistake. But the idea of throwing a puck, he took the curse with him. We're now free. I love that stuff. I think that voodoo is a lot of fun, and it makes you feel a little bit better if you're a Cleveland fan. And again, bringing it full circle, I said, a half an hour ago that, if you're the evil empire, if you have the straight A kid, he better get straight A's every time or it's a disappointment. That's the thing for LeBron. That's the curse that he's placed on himself and Wade and Bosh and Riley is if they do anything less than win it every year for the next 4 or 5 years, it's a failure. If they lose at all, it's a disappointment.
I forgot one other part of the case for maybe why Miami won't. Because these guys are going to log a lot of big minutes, and I'm hoping if they play 44 minutes a game, 100 games a year, you never know.
That's what I'm saying. Spoelstra's going to have to sit them. He's going to have to sit them.
I'm just looking for reasons why.
We know how this works because the Celtics did it really well in 08. Is you get a lot of fourth quarters off when you have 32-point leads after 3 quarters. I don't think managing the minutes. I mean, how close are those games against the Nets and the Raptors and the Wizards going to be? That LeBron and Dwayne Wade will be laughing on the bench for most of the fourth quarters of the regular season.
Oh, God. I'm dreading this whole season. Although I will say, though, the one thing I'm going to be fascinated by is LeBron and the triple-double thing, because he's not a guy that cares about numbers, and he's said over and over again. I don't think he's like Wilt. I don't think he's going to be calculating. I think it could just happen as a natural outcome of his role in this team.
Sure, by definition, he's going to be more of a frontline guy. He's going to rebound.
It would be a good Vegas bet. Would you say LeBron James will average a 25-10-10 or better in 2010-11? I would put the odds on that at even.
Let me go back. What do you guys think about this real quick, though? Obviously, this is a potential dynasty here, but if he goes to the Nets, Devin Harris, a point guard who can shoot the ball. Derek Favors is a Chris Bosh, projects to be a Chris Bosh talent, and Lopez is the second best center in the conference. That team would be theoretically, that Nets team would be better than what this Heat team is going to be.
Well, 3 years from now, I think LeBron made the point that I think he is now sensing his NBA mortality a little bit. He's got a lot of miles on him already. For 7 years, he's played how many games? 600? And I think he wants to win right now, and that's one of the reasons he did that. Hench, we're letting you go. Plug your podcast quickly.
All right. It's Spider and the Henchman with the Henchman and John Sally. It comes out every Friday on iTunes and AdamCarolla.com, where Dave's of Thunder, also kicking A.
I'm gonna make an appearance this summer. I think I've worked out.
We don't get that profane. There's nothing.
Well, I had to kind of take a low profile for podcast appearances for a while, but I might have
all right,
to.
You're always invited. Open invitation, and maybe got to do the home and home.
Maybe the sports. Yeah, well, the henchman's got to get in there soon so we can figure out the details of this basketball game. Maybe we can get the sports guy Simmons to do the play-by-play.
Hold on. What is the idea that you and Feeney are going to play me and John Sally?
No, and we'll include someone else too. I don't know who. Someone else from the Daves of Thunder staff. 2-on-3 to try and even things out a little bit. We'll figure it out.
2-on-3. Okay.
2-on-3. Right. America's going to be riveted by that. Kevin Hench, thank you.
Thanks, Simmons. Thanks.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. All right, Dameshek, we're going to wrap this up. Since we're doing plugs, why don't you plug so Dave's of Thunder.
Yeah, Dave's of Thunder.
AdamCarolla.com.
AdamCarolla.com, and also available on iTunes. Much obliged for the subscription. And may I also say, semi-exciting news for me too. Coming this fall, I'm going to be doing on NFL.com, doing a live web show on Sunday mornings, talking fantasy football with Fabiano and company.
Who's Fabiano?
Who's NFL.com's, fantasy guru.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
I
got confused for a second. Yeah. I didn't have good coffee today.
I'm
a little
sorry.
slow.
You're sad about this.
Are you taping it Sunday mornings?
I'm not taping it. It'll be a live thing leading up to kickoff each and every Sunday morning.
Oh, congratulations.
That's right.
I am a little sad because listening to you and Hench, and you guys know basketball like I do, and I think I'm in a little bit of denial about what's going to happen.
That's what's come through to me over this last week or so, is that you just don't want to accept that team's going to be good. There's no way around it. They're going to be good.
I'm so bummed out.
I don't like it.
I'm so bummed out. I mean, really, like when you have to resort to the argument of, well, they're going to be logging a lot of minutes, somebody might get hurt.
Well,
that's when the wheels start to come
Think about this. Here's what LeBron has given us all this summer, along with the World Cup, even for people who don't really care much about soccer. It's obviously a pretty engaging tournament to watch. Those two things combined have gotten us now to within 7 weeks of college football season. The ball's about to kick off. The football, the pigskin.
Have you been to an LA newsstand lately?
Oh, is it out? All the stuff's out? All the fantasy stuff?
Shelf of. It's funny, a lot of Chris Johnson.
Yeah, well, listen, people were talking about him maybe going, I guess Chris Johnson himself was talking about running for 2,500 this year.
I wanted to do our West Coast League in Vegas, like what I did with my friends last year, that fantasy weekend. And I talked to the cousin about it.
Yeah.
And they're on break that week, and there's a couple of the T-Man. He always goes to like weird places for vacation. So it might not work, but
listen, they have Skype these days.
Here's the thing: they'd be able to get us an auctioneer, do in Vegas, to bang it out one night, get a party bus, go up.
No. Enough said. It's done. That's what we should be doing.
An auctioneer in Vegas, party bus in and out, 24 hours.
We're doing the right thing.
How do we not do that?
We're doing it properly for the first time. We're actually going to do an auction. We've been doing the standard snake draft. Now we're going to do the auction. Yes, of course. If you can't, like I say, so you'll be satellited in. So be it.
I'm like LeBron. LeBron feels his NBA mortality, so he jumped with Wade and Bosch. I feel my fantasy mortality. I don't know how many years I have left with fantasy.
Have you ever claimed the crown?
Yeah, I won a couple years ago. How dare you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Right,
that was, and then everybody blamed because I had Tomlinson the first pick, and everybody made fun of me. I want to do an auction, though. I'm tired of the round by round.
I can't wait.
And everybody whoever gets lucky in the 9th round with somebody, they win. Like, let's see how much people want to pay for Chris Johnson.
I love it. And by the way, one last thing, sort of connected. I saw Tim Hasselbeck talking about. I've made it clear that I've denounced Roethlisberger. I wish he were no longer a Pittsburgh Steeler and so on. But it still gets my goat that people talk. He did the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. Brady and Manning, the top 2. Apparently Manning can never do anything. I mean, Manning throws another huge pick in a huge moment, but he's the best. I mean, he sees nobody understands. Yeah, I see the games though, and he throws.
Breeze is the best now. Breeze.
All right.
Collinsworth made that point to me when I was talking about Manning versus Brady, and even after 6 months, you forget that Breeze has the crown now.
Right. So fine. Breeze, then Phillip Rivers, and then Brett Favre. Really, Roethlisberger isn't better than Brett Favre at this point? Another guy who throws. Who maybe has thrown some monstrous picks in terrible spots.
Well, are you ready for when I had Collinsworth asked him, what do you think the single biggest story is going to be this year? And he just, without hesitation, said Roethlisberger. And that got my brain kind of churning like, yeah, this is this will be the dominant story this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, but I'll say, I'll go on record now. You talk about that it would be bad for you the Heat versus the Lakers for the title. It's like I always say, it's like the tagline for Alien versus Predator. No matter who wins, we lose. Same thing for me with this year's Super Bowl. I predict Baltimore Ravens, Dallas Cowboys.
That's many people on that Ravens bandwagon, which means it can't happen.
Oh, really? A lot of people riding the Ravens already.
I guarantee Sports Illustrated Ray Rice on the cover with.
Boy, that AFC is going to be brutal this year. Think about it. Think about how many good teams go through them division by division. Your Patriots lock.
Don't sleep on my Pats.
I'm not, but I mean the Jets and Dolphins in that division. I mean, you got the Titans might be good. I mean, the Texans, everybody picks them perennially, but maybe this is the year. The Colts obviously are going to be good. The Ravens, who knows what the Bengals. I think the Steelers are going to be loud. Well, we could save it.
Let's save this for the next
So
podcast.
be it. I'm just getting excited. I'm thanking the World Cup / LeBron for getting us so close before I even realized it.
You forgot another thing that pushed us closer was that the March Madness was weird this year. First the Olympics. So Super Bowl, Olympics, then all of a sudden we're in March Madness. Then all of a sudden it was like second week of April and baseball was in, and it seemed like everything sped up this year. And then we had the World Cup.
And now
the finals lasted long. The draft, I came out of nowhere. It's been like boom, 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 boom.
And now we have done it before we get the football season. You, me, Corolla, and who knows who else. Let's go see the Expendables. That's the next thing we have to look
August
forward
19th?
to. I think maybe even sooner than that. But yeah.
They had me at the words written and directed by Sly Stallone. The sixth grade, written and directed. Yeah, the 6 greatest words in Hollywood history. Dameshek, AdamCarolla.com. Check out Days of Thunder there. Thanks for coming on, as always.
A thin slice of heaven.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at PodCenter at ESPNRadio.com.
Peace out.